Travis Wayne Goodsell. Gotcha. Apparently you haven't watched the latest video I just posted on YouTube, because the Mormon employee is back on shift after the long weekend for them. Gotcha. You are the enemy. You are not the good guy. You are working for the great and abominable church. And this is what I have exposed this weekend. Mormons just never get it. They push the Book of Mormon, they cry at the rammy-umptums of church that it's so true, and they don't even follow it. They don't even believe it. So, in the movie Eyes Wide Shut, Nicole Kidman, Tom Cruise, they find an underground sex cult where they wear masks. And it originated in the early Americas as these sex cults worshiping Lucifer were an underground movement. And I just exposed this weekend the Danites were one of these groups, having their wives banged by all the other members of the Danites, and blaming Joseph for it. The depths of evil of this church is full-on debauchery. Horror just doesn't even cover the depths of evil of the minds of this people. It is horrifying, because they use murder to cover it all up. They literally commit crimes that escalate to murder if you are not conforming and complying to their threats. And so, yeah, an extermination order by Governor Boggs, well justified, just the wrong people. It's the Danites within Joseph Smith's religion that cooed Joseph Smith's church. And so we learn from Thomas B. Marsh that these Danites claim Joseph Smith was their leader, but that Adam-on-Diamond was specifically being used as their headquarters. Newell K. Whitney is assigned to be the bagman, bishop cover in Adam-on-Diamond. That's why he moved out there. And then they would go on to, 40 years later, turn it into a scripture revelation of Joseph's, that he's against the Danites, not the leader. Oops. Busted. And that this secret headquarters was intended to be their kingdom. And thus the election there in Daviess County in 1838 threatened their ownership and possession of the land, their kingdom. Because the guy running for office said, hey, I got an idea on how we can develop the land up there that's unoccupied. Nobody has incorporated a city there yet. I got some ideas for what to do to the land. And so the Danites called out their armies to gather to Adam-on-Diamond, and then marched down to the polling station, where they proceeded to tamper with the election to prevent that guy from winning. And I'm forgetting now, because it's not in a reference book. I have to go searching through the files to find out if it was Curtis or Stewart who got knocked to the ground to start it off. And then one guy yelled during the middle of the war, "We are the Danites." That's where we get the name from. The judges, to decertify that election as the judges. And so they went to the local magistrate judge. They went to the sheriff, and with their 1,000 men threatened them to sign an affidavit saying it was Joseph, when he was still out in far west Missouri, 2 days' ride away. And so the war began. And that Galatian incident is what caused Thomas B. Marsh to say, "Oh no, this is going too far, guys, I'm out." And they threatened him, and told them of their secret plot to take the land there in Missouri, and eventually they plotted to take the United States of America and then the rest of the world. And so he put that in his affidavit. They told him Joseph Smith was the leader of their group, just like they told the sheriff, just like they told the judge. Write and sign that it's Joseph. Just like all of those whorish, slutty women of the Danites who were being passed around, that they were ordered to say it was Joseph only. And so others were threatened to leave Missouri if they would not join the Danites. David Whitmer, for example. And so he, after getting chased out, went to Oliver Cowdery, told him, same thing. Danites told me Joseph Smith is the leader of the Danites, and that he changed the name of the church to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints without a vote. Kind of need a vote. Where's the vote in section 115? Oh, hey, 1838. Adam-on-Diamond in section 116. 1838. Section 117. Newell K. Whitney. Oh, come to Adam-on-Diamond and be the bishop, huh? 1838. Joseph is not the leader of the Danites. He's condemning them and calls them the Nicolaitan band of those awful human beings in the post-Second Temple period before the creation of Christianity, that were said to have passed their wives around. The Danites revealed who they were and said Joseph condemned it, and forgot that they had made Joseph their leader. But it's 40 years later when they're doing this. Putting it in Joseph or Brigham Young's Doctrine and Covenants the year before he dies. And so we then get to the way to perfection. Joseph Fielding Smith Sr., the only Smith of the Smith main family to go with Brigham. The rest are apostates. Seriously, this is your first time coming to a video of mine? You don't go to my video page to see that the video I just posted? Hello? How long have you been on YouTube? You don't know how to use it? It's just whatever shows up on your main feed when you sign in. Oh, that's a pretty picture. I'll click on that. Oh, this is stupid. Thumbs down. What's next? Tell me what to believe in, YouTube. We'll just flip the phone and whatever comes up I'll watch. You are in control of my life. I am no free agent whatsoever. God. And this is the downfall of our society. Seriously. And then you get the alt-right Nazis who came from this Danite group, which also branched off to be Confederates, who are rising up with every new technology, saying this is a danger to our kids. We need to control it and force our kids not to watch it. And so, yeah, with photographs, and magazines, and books, and then movies, and then TV shows, and then VHS tapes, DVDs, internet, streaming, and music on the radio, music and records, music on cassette tapes, music on CDs, music on YouTube. You gotta ban it. It's harmful to kids. Porn. It's the enemy. Get 'em. And yet the people calling for the banning are the enemy. They're taking away agency. They are the threat to our Constitution and the American way. Southern Illinois, Metropolis, the biggest statue of Superman. One of my apostles had notified me of that today. Anyway, The Way to Perfection, pages 290 and 291 confirm Thomas B. Marsh and his concern, which got the extermination order signed, but for the wrong group of people. Supposed to have been only for the Danites. And Thomas B. Marsh knew because he was told by them. And he didn't stick to the facts of what he knew. He just threw in what they said and believed whatever they told him. Just like David Whitmer. He changed the name of the church without a vote. How could Joseph flip? So Oliver Cowdery writes his book, Defense, and says, I can't see Joseph doing this. It had to have been Sidney Rigdon. That's why I left the church, is because Joseph was buddy-buddy with him and not me. I had designs for how Zion should be built, and Joseph Smith palled around with Sidney. Joseph doesn't love me anymore. He's not my friend. Oh my hell. I have seen that way too many times. That's why friends have to be in pairs. Because once you start introducing 3 and 4 it will never work out. And if it's guys, yeah, you get more than two and you get trouble, criminal trouble. You get more than two girls, you either get mean girls or you get girls gone wild. Drama, drama, drama. Do we have a storm coming in? Oh, cool. Anyway, Joseph Fielding Smith confirms that the Danites are the threat. Adam-on-Diamond, in the future, this council in the Valley of Armageddon will have a transfer of government authority. The United States government is handing over the keys to who? To Jesus? They call the United States run and operated by Lucifer, and that Jesus Christ is run and operating the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There will be a transfer of authority at the council in the Valley of Adam-on-Diamond from the usurper and impostor Lucifer to the rightful king, Jesus Christ. Same pattern. 1838. Election fraud, decertification of the election, war, coup, murder. Mingled with orgy rape. But I guess you can't rape the willing, can you? That's what my white supremacist Christian nationalist peers kept saying when we were younger. And now they're leading America. Father Yah, hello, in the coming days. Bye-bye, Nelson. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, great and abominable church. Bye-bye. That's the Most High. And so, Heber J. Grant changed this so that it is not given to Mormons. In his incorporation of the corporation, he uses Mormons as the cash cows. Mormons no longer have authority for a vote, like to change the name of the church. Mormons are only for funding the criminal operation. And so, as it had to do with land, to return America to a kingdom run by a monarchy. The Danites lost it in Adam-on-Diamond because it got out of control. They didn't incorporate it. So they then moved and settled in what they named Nauvoo and incorporated it. But by having things escalate still and deciding to murder Joseph Smith rather than have him become president so that they can murder him at the White House, that would then become Abraham Lincoln by the Confederates. That other branch off, remember? And so Brigham Young took his Danites and the Vanguard Company and settled in this valley. And murder and was involved, and slavery and prostitution. Now they were married to specific guys rather than passed around. And so, yeah, they kept a book of their polygamous marriaging. And so, no, they lied. The book confirms that. The debauchery that they themselves admit to, but blame Joseph for. The evidence they wrote, Joseph was innocent. Even Brigham Young would come out in 1874 in June or July, would give a talk here in this valley saying that Joseph Smith wasn't smart enough to start polygamy. That Brigham got inspiration from Jesus while out in England. And that it was him who introduced it to Joseph in 1843. Really? Ambulance already, huh? Mormons cannot know of this. The saints cannot know of it. It has to be a secret combination transfer. So Nelson, when he gets up at the pulpit of conference in 2018 and says in the coming days you're going to see the marvelous wonders of Jesus, well, what happened after that? Why did he have to again repeat it in 2022? He knows. Oh my hell. We got more going on. Oh. People are getting struck by lightning. The vivid shaft of lightning. So, Brigham Young likewise claimed this land as his. And America came in the very next year, dethroned him, but sent him a letter saying, you can be governor. And then the war began again, as all the federal officers being sent to this valley were murdered or chased out and had to keep being replaced. So the United States, after Brigham Young's terrorist threat letter, get out of my land, sent in the army. So the Temple of Lucifer with the inverted pentagram on the keystone of the doors had to wait for 40 years. So Brigham Young then began the Perpetual Immigration Fund in 1849 of human trafficking and sex trafficking of both adults and children, to bring them to the valley as slaves to pay off their debts and then grant them citizenship in his kingdom to take it back. And then, after declaring polygamy as the official out in the open now law in 1852, they specifically went on missions to convert women to be their wives. And brothels were made. Orrin Porter Rockwell was rewarded with the first brothel in the valley at the point of the mountain. And the news, even to this day, calls it a hotel for the Pony Express. So in denial. And then Regent Street, because Brigham Young was now getting divorced too many times and needed comfort. Would have been hilarious if he died of syphilis. knew he was dying a year in advance. And so the appendix or something like that, no, that's a quick thing. He knew he was dying and made the changes a year in advance. I'm not buying the story of his death. Al Capone died of syphilis. All the gangsters died of syphilis, didn't they? And so then Brigham Young, realizing that the United States still had a domineering presence and knew that pretty soon other Americans are going to travel west, along with Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise, in the movie where Enya is the theme song, to settle the West. And so in preparation to prevent this, Brigham Young then began sending Mormon families in groups north and south to create a wall. And thus 9/11, 1857, the Mountain Meadows Massacre. To keep settlers out of Mormon land. They claimed the whole land to the coast. Even though the Oregon and Washington, it was more complicated to obtain. And so there are beautiful coastal places there in Oregon and Washington. And so I can imagine how even more beautiful they were before the urban metropolises being built. So I don't know why he didn't want that land too. I guess he just assumed that if he dominates the rest to California and the coastline, then yeah, he can just expand from there. That's what kings do. And so yeah, he dies, John Taylor takes over. We got kids now rather than doggies. I miss the doggies. I always used to be barking in the hall. Gave me the idea for a computer game that nobody built. $1 million idea, guys. Come on. And so then John Taylor gets busted by the United States. 1887, church is shut down. Ceases to exist on the face of the earth. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is dissolved. Gone. Perpetual Immigration Fund with it. It's a criminal organization with the Edmunds-Tucker Act. And the church still lies to us to this day that it was about religious freedom being violated for child bride polygamy. Which they never did stop anyway. They're still doing it. How many of you have had a temple ceiling, women, and have been divorced from your husband? Was it a temple divorce? Nope, church doesn't do those. They say you have to get a civil divorce. But you're still sealed to your husband. Unless you can submit evidence that he is so abominable that it's justified to break the sealing. The first presidency will say fine. Or you want to get remarried to another man and your first husband gives permission, your first ex. It's the only way. but it still has to be approved by the First Presidency. You are in a polygamous relationship. My second ex, which was annulled, so she's not really an ex, it just never happened. We were never married. Nonetheless, we're still sealed. It never happened. We were never married, but we're sealed. And she doesn't want sex with me anymore. But we're married. We have to be married in order to have sex. But we're married. We have to be married. We are the church. Jesus. No? Guy can't get a break. So yeah, I saw the SG1 episode of Ryak getting married. Already off to a bad start with that woman. Dear God, I am not bowing to you. I don't care how many thousands of years this has been tradition. Where are those Mormon women? Oh my God. So here we are. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is involved with secret combinations. As I've been showing you the picture over and over again all these time, as I keep finding them out. I should have put these in order because the 2012 Republican Party platform, Operation Red Map, should have gone first, and then the Council for National Policy's membership directory of 2014, I found that one next, or learned about it next. Learned of the church's involvement through Mark Skousen. Senator Lee was a part of the 2012 platform with the Tea Party. And then the one that would eventually land me here, the way to perfection. And then last year on 9/11, did the whole video series in the red shirt at the bedside. The church released in the wrong papers, the Joseph Smith papers, not the Brigham Young papers, the ledger of these Danites, the secret combination economy by which would emerge what they turned into Section 119, published immediately after Joseph Smith's assassination, as Brigham Young only used it for his church. Others didn't know of it, but it says it's by Joseph. Why would Brigham Young lie? He's an apostle, the president. Why would he lie? And so, yeah, the book of the law of the Lord, which he got from Section 85 that didn't get published because it was a letter to W. Phelps. And in that letter, we learn of the one mighty and strong who would come out in the future. And verse 7 is from Deuteronomy, chapter 18, verses 15 through 19. The man like Moses, not Jesus. Pretty sure nobody believes that the one mighty and strong is Jesus. You're all looking for a particular Mormon, as all Mormons knew it meant. Because over the years after it was finally published in Joseph Smith's final Doctrine and Covenants the year before he died, along with the forged documents, everybody's claiming they're the one because this church fell when they allowed the United States to conquer them. And so you've got these militant branch-offs, the Allreds and the guys down in Mexico, for example, and the Bundys. And that's where they get it from, guys. And even Warren Jeffs, he had a military force protecting him, just like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has security guards protecting them. They're armed and packing. Remember the clips I renewed with you recently last week with Trump at Welfare Square? They're sitting around. You've got Trump in the middle. Then to the right, looking at the screen, you have Irene, and then Nelson, who when Trump wanted them to talk about Welfare Square, you see Nelson's hand go and squeeze the arm of Irene. Nelson is the one in charge of the church, because Monson's on his deathbed. Nelson is the president of the Quorum of the 12. And so Irene, his rank, is back with the 12, while Monson is on his deathbed. And so Nelson was ordering Irene to be the one to speak. Got to pay attention to these little things. And then the Relief Society president at the time was then there, and then the presiding bishop was there. Casse was after that. And then to the left, Senator Orrin Hatch. May he rot in hell. If you've seen that movie. Or burn in hell, one of the two. And then there's another guy next to him. That's the security guard. He's packing. He's got a gun. He's there with Trump. Trump gets out of line and lunges toward Irene or Nelson, and he's ready to blow Trump away. Church comes first. And so this book of the law comes from section 85. Verse 8, by the way. Anybody catch the lightning comment that I made? That's where I got it from. Bye-bye, Nelson. Bye-bye. That's verse 20 in Deuteronomy 18. The false prophet. That's where Joseph got that from. He is prophesying. And the church knows this. And they purposely did not footnote it. And they purposely lie and says that it's no longer valid because W.W. Phelps repented and joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with Brigham. No. No respect for Joseph whatsoever. These Danites. And so, yeah, that's the book of the law that's talked about in there. That those of the apostles and lesser priesthood holders who are apostates do not get to go to Zion and have a land of inheritance in Zion. And so Nelson last year rushed it out right before Thanksgiving. Said it's all about Section 119 instead. But they are doing the land grab. It's to get the land back. And so Nelson has been purging Mormons, so that only the highest loyalists get an inheritance in Zion that gets restored again. And notice where the temples are placed in the west coast. A wall again. They are getting back their land. This new lawsuit against the Federal Bureau of Land Management to reclaim the land that was taken back by the United States after 1887 when the church was shut down. That's what they're claiming the land back for. They're doing the final preparations to make sure that they have a backup just in case something fails. They're trying to get their land. That's why Nelson has been escalating the number of temples, making business deals with our enemies to cause the war in Ukraine, to cause the war against Israel. All of this, and he still failed because Jesus didn't suddenly come to his temple at Salt Lake for conference this April. And so his second coming has been postponed yet again. And so just like the Danites in 1838, 2020 happened. And now we have 2024 after they failed in 2020. And guess what they bring out? The church again brings out Project 2025. How do I know it's the church? How do I know that the church is involved with the 2012 Republican Party platform, Operation Red Map? How do I know the church is involved with the membership directory of the Council for National Policy? Because that's a secret combination, guys. That is the core group. Because the Project 2025, written by Heritage Foundation members, boom, they're in that group. The Tea Party of the Republican Party platform of 2012, in that group. Leonard Leo, who set up SCOTUS with the billionaires to bribe them to overthrow certain things like Roe v. Wade, in that group. Steve Bannon, who with Cambridge Analytica in 2016 posted those Facebook quizzes, which Disney princess are you, and took that data from Facebook and through the other guy that got arrested and then pardoned by Trump, Paul Manafort, got it sold into Russia. And then Russia then would buy advertising in Facebook again. In case you didn't know, Zuckerberg is a Russian loyalist. Went to Russia and was all excited and giddy, just like Trump was with Miss Teen, hoping to see Putin. And that's when he was told he would be the president. Nonetheless, that's not involving the church directly, but through this Council for National Policy. And so, yes, he's a member. This group has meetings where they discuss what America needs to be great again. And so assignments are given out there. And so when all of these things happen by members or through the groups that are involved here, that's because they plotted it. They overthrew Roe v. Wade. They bribed the judges. They put them in the first place because the Heritage Foundation made the list for Trump. We want these people in. We purposely made sure Merrick Garland would not be voted in under Obama so that we can have an extra guy for you, Trump. We want you to put this guy in. We got you into the office. They did. There's others. There are Russians and Russian loyalists in this group. Maria Butina. I don't think I pronounced her name right. Butina. Maria Butina. It's a double I, and most Americans drop the one phonetic I. But regardless, she's now a national hero in Russia. She's got her dream job that she chose because she exposed America as a Russian spy. And a redhead, too. Even though it's fake. But through this council. The Russians in the council set her up with the NRA in the council. Yep, they're in there too. And so she got contacts for other Russians with our government leaders. And then had her big debut on national television during a Trump rally in a back room where she gets to ask the first question. I'm from Russia. I have a question. Russia, I love that place. Putin is such a great and powerful and strong man. Omar. I haven't seen him do that for a while. I hope he's still doing that. Gotta keep that one going. Yep. Everything. This started in 1981. What president took over in office in 1981? Reagan! What did Reagan do? Tinkle down economics. Her corporate board members are on this group so that they would get the money from the government and then would put it into the stock market for their big gambling thing that the House, which is them, always wins to manipulate the stocks. Everything since then. The Russian scandal in the 80s under Reagan, which had a TV show, The Americans. Yep. This group. Russians, remember? Sleeper cell Russians in America. They're still here. We didn't get them all. Just like Islamic sleeper cells. And Conway, Kellyanne Conway, a member, made a spokesperson for Trump. So yes, that was her job, to lie for Trump, to put out misinformation and disinformation for Trump, to cover up all that they had planned and ordered Trump to do. Trump is just a puppet of these guys. And so how is the church involved? They're the ones running the show. He who has the money has the power. The church has the money. The whistleblower made that very clear. I just found out that I think Warren Buffett or somebody finally became a trillionaire. Church has been trillionaires for a while now. Multi-trillionaires for a while now. All of these rich guys that you hear in the news, they're nothing compared to the 1% of the 1% in America. That's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. When Heber J. Grant incorporated the church to make Mormons the cash cows, that was the whole plan, to become filthy rich. And Nelson came out and said after the whistleblower, yeah, so what? We're following the parable of the talents. Which has to do with the latter days, because it's there in chapter 25 of Matthew. Right after the parable of the 10 virgins. Separation of the wheat from the tares, sheep from the goats. So that's what Nelson is doing. Purging the church. He's trying to purge out the poor. He's failed. It's worse now. He's poisoned everything. He caused the drought. The church stole the water from Salt Lake. So when we had the drought, oh no, the brine poison is filling the air. The toxins. Because of the church. And so, oh wow, the church is donating water that they stole. They caused this. All of the pollutions in the air, land, and water. The church. Not just the big corporations of oil and other chemical factories. Big Pharma. The church. After Nazi Germany, we took in psychologists who were torturing the Jews. Put them to work with the CIA. That's where MK Ultra comes from. Using LSD as the drugging mass brainwashing. But then they had others for non-invasive brainwashing by using commercials and frames in your theater to see if you would buy Coca-Cola and a popcorn. And it worked. You're easily manipulated. Women are told that they're ugly and they need to buy these products to cover up and hide and put on a mask. Of all different kinds and types. And now they call them natural products. Makes you look natural. And so, Mormon women in Utah are the highest per capita in the world that are drugged with depression drugs. Because of all the abuse by this church. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so, at the second coming, Bruce R. McConkie says we're going to bring back polygamy. The wicked will be destroyed. The governments will all be overthrown. The money is hoarded for the parable of the talents, for the purpose of the kingdom. To get the kingdom, to buy whoever off they need to do to get their kingdom. And then start the law of consecration of slavery. And then Jesus was supposed to suddenly come to his temple. But notice, the Washington, D.C. temple was restored, rededicated, and they had a big thing about the guy who did his, I should add that in my reference book, who did the painting of the second coming of Jesus in the Washington, D.C. temple. I just read to you the way to perfection. That's what they're intending to do. Coup the government. And so in the Washington, D.C. temple, they have the painting of the second coming of Jesus symbolizing his coup of the government. And I did the videos, and people said, no. Church would never do that. Project 2024. 25. No more porn. The church has been obsessed with porn when they are the bad guys in regards to sex abuse. Not teaching sex ed. Abusing women. Abusing men. Forcing the government to not teach sex ed in the school system. And now it's there in Project 2025 to make it a national ban. They wanted to have a blacklist on porn sites so that every adult man is listed for Utah to know who you are. They tried to make a law through Senator Lee to get Russians to come to Salt Lake to be put to work, because that's what Russia wants. They want the uranium. And Herbert failed. So now Cox is in place, and guess what they're up to? Uranium mining. Just like they got caught and busted for under Herbert. All of these things, guys. This is why I've been paying attention to all the news, putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Step by step, news upon news, here a little, there a little. And assembling them and running the tests for confirmation and getting, oh my God, we're all doomed. Mormons don't believe, they want to die. So, there are prophecies that I've warned you about. A test by Heber C. Kimball, and a dream by John Taylor, published by Wilford Woodruff in his journal. Gotta know the context. And so we'll start with Heber C. Kimball, because he's the one who is the enemy who figured out that Joseph Smith Sr. was the one who caused America to be saved on 9/11/1826, for which these evil enemy wanted revenge on whoever was responsible. Heber C. Kimball found out it was Joseph Smith Sr. and so got together with Brigham Young to infiltrate the church, go and convert all the other enemy who would become the Danites, saying, we found them. This is what we're going to do. We're going to join the church, go out on missions, recruit others. We're going to call it the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and another testament of Jesus Christ for the Book of Mormon, because they're pretending to be Jewish. So we're going to do what Constantine did to the Jews. And then we're going to rise up in rank, and then we'll cause a war to overthrow it, and then coup it, and then destroy it, and then start all over with our new world order. That's exactly what they did. That was the pattern of the Illuminati, and they did it with the Danites. And so Heber C. Kimball talks about this under his Masonry thing from his journal. And it's a little different from the actual journal than what's made available on Wikipedia. But nonetheless, you get the idea from Wikipedia that he knew. Everything there he says from his journal is a lie. None of it is true. He didn't go to Canandaigua to apply to be a Royal Ark Mason in New York Rites. You know, you got to pay attention to the numbers, the dates, the locations. He never says he went to Joseph Fielding Smith or Joseph Smith Sr. He says the records were destroyed, but I was approved. And yet, to his dying day, never acknowledged that he knew that Joseph Smith Sr. was the master mason of that lodge. But he knows that he was. And while he words it, reveals he knew who it was. And so, when the Danites began baptisms for the dead, not Joseph, William Morgan was in that first batch. There's a reason why I have 4K videos, guys. This is all just social summarizing for you. I have provided you over the years with the links when I do the research. I show you the pictures so that you're supposed to know. We have Google search. You're not that incompetent. If I can find it, you can find it. All right, so that is Heber C. Kimball, who started the debauchery, sex debauchery, in 1829, knocking up a woman who was not his wife, having a child through her. And so already he's joining the church. He's the enemy, wanting revenge on whoever caused 9/11/1826 to save America. And he's already a serial rapist. Alright, so this comes from what he has said. And it's a one-page paragraph. And then this person who did this online thing also quoted Nelson and Brigham Young, Lorenzo Snow, Joseph Fielding Smith, and then there's some other stuff. They're thinking that it's fulfillment of prophecy. Anyway, so I'm going to read over Heber C. Kimball and then John Taylor's dream as reported by Wilford Woodruff, because you got to pay attention to what's going on here. An army of elders will be sent to the four quarters of the earth to search out the righteous and warn the wicked of what is coming. Oops, not a prophet. We're not doing this. He's a false prophet. The gospel has been restored. Have the right feeling and we'll schedule your baptism. Make sure you pay. There is no warning of doom. All kinds of religions will be started. Only the Christian ones. And miracles performed that will deceive Mormons. He calls them the very elect. If that were possible. Yep, it is. You see, he's not prophesying here. This is the plot, remember? The way to perfection. The affidavit that caused the extermination order. He's in on it. This is the plot. Albert Pike, an outside confirming source. The Latter-day War, World War III. All of these need to be factored in. And so that's why it's so important, as we're now 9 days away from the baptism of fire. That it already has happened but hasn't happened. Because we know it's happening because of science. We can do that with science, just like those cute little weather girls on all the national local networks. All right? And so you don't read this as prophecy. You don't force the interpretation. We're in the final end of the latter days. We already know the interpretation of all Scripture. So now we know what he means when he says this stuff. We're going to see how well he's done under Nelson. Our sons and daughters must live pure lives so as to be prepared for what's coming. Okay? The church is going to cause it. So the Mormons need to be obedient so that they will be protected. Protect the church. After a while, the Christians will gather by the thousands to Utah. Salt Lake City will be classed among the wicked cities of the world. Yep, just had a study last week come out. Cha-ching. Last. Dead last. And it wasn't a BYU study, so we know it's true. BYU studies say Utah is the greatest place to live because of the church's standards and values. Proven scientifically through our study. We feel good about it. A spirit of speculation and extravagance. That's economy. What do you mean by that? The Mormons will be rich, and when you have rich, you have poor. And so, yeah, everybody knows the divide of the communities here in Utah. You know where you're in the poor part of town, on the west side mostly. And so then they started building new subdivisions to box in the poor. And then we've had the mayors of the different poor cities tried to run for office to say, hey, let's revitalize our city, aka get rid of the poor and build over their ruins as we render them homeless, because they aren't going to be able to afford the new housing. And so we have a housing crisis in Utah because of this, to purge out the poor. Will take possession of the saints, and the result will be financial bondage and credit card debt. We all know that. Because of the economy is ruined. Rich and poor. The rich don't have financial bondage. They're free. Persecution comes next. So you see what happens here? The church is going to prosper Utah to cause the division between rich and poor. Then the church is going to offend people. Zion Curtain, porn, the medical marijuana, and other stuff. LGBTQ are now to be excommunicated from the church. Burning bridges, falling down, got a nasty reputation from town to town. I still remember doing that video for you. Church news. And then oh my God. And so yes, the church purposely is going to purge the membership, claiming that they're the victims of persecution when they're the bullies, they're the abusers. They're claiming religious freedom. That was their part of the Council for National Policy to get put into Project 2025. And so the Protect Marriage, no, it's the Disrespect for Marriage Act that got passed, because the church's exemption clause was put in by Mitt Romney, because Republicans aren't going to vote for it. It's a deep state Dem thing. And so the church's exemption clause, oh, okay, yeah, as long as we can refuse service, as long as we can disrespect them, great. Okay. Now we'll sign it and approve it. God. And you got Pelosi going, this is the greatest thing ever. Oh my God, seriously? But that was after 2022. In the coming days. That's the church. That's what Nelson was meaning. Gotta pay attention. And so, yes, all true Latter-day Saints will be tested to the limit. And so, yes, with COVID that came out, and then the vaccines, and Nelson and all the apostles getting vaccinated, Mormons were shocked. Oh my God, they're turning progressive. They were being tested to the limit, as I did in that video the other week, last week. Many will apostatize. I noticed, because I saw that I was being attacked, and so I saw that it was a couple of times attacking me, and now this time I notice I'm being left alone for over an hour now. I gotcha. And so, yeah, this is the purging of the church. Separation of the wheat from the tares, sheep from the goats. Boom. Persecution comes next. Latter-day Saints will be tested to the limit. Is the church true? And so many will apostatize. So thus they purposely are bullying LGBTQ to abuse them, to torture them, and then claim that we're building bridges with you, and then they burn them down. This is what bullies do. And they love it because the victims keep coming back trying to build bridges again. You don't get it. The church isn't true. You can't change the church. You're never going to build that bridge. You can wait for all eternity. The church will not change. And they won't let you because they're about to destroy everybody. That's the whole thing with bullies. And victims never get it. And so you can't have innocent, naive people running government. You need people who know the enemy and who are willing to take a stand to protect the American people. And the deep state Dems are known for not having a spine. And under Biden, MAGA overthrew everything, caused the wars, took away Roe v. Wade, caused the border crisis. So that Biden gets blamed for it. And it is Biden's fault. He's the only one who can invoke the Insurrection Act. And he has to do it. There's a coup going on. And he's not doing it. Kamala Harris. She's not telling Biden to do it. Because it's, they'll claim that we're trying to rig the election. And so I'm going to go and tell people, if you vote for Trump, he's going to make a national ban on abortion. Well, it was under you that it was taken away. What else is going to be taken away if we vote for you? And if we vote for Trump, Project 2025, a national ban. We cannot win. This election is rigged already. And Hinckley, there was a missionary that came back from his mission up to Canada, where I was living at the time, in the 90s. And he said that he had dinner with Hinckley for some reason. And in that meeting, Hinckley said that there will be no more U.S. elections. And there have been. So if he was telling the truth, that Hinckley did say that, and he's not being a missionary who loves to embellish stories, as all missionaries apparently did, even on the mission. Elder so-and-so said he knocked on the door of this celebrity and that celebrity, and I heard from that so-and-so got the Book of Mormon. And I heard so-and-so became a Mormon, and it's a secret. But if it is true, it meant that Hinckley, through the Council for National Policy, purposely have rigged every single election, which means they allowed Romney to lose and Obama to win, purposely to set up Project 2012 with the Tea Party, Operation Red Map, to set it up for Trump, if the missionary is telling the truth. If. Wouldn't surprise me. I've confirmed everything else. So that is what they do. And so darkness will cover the earth, and gross darkness the minds of the people. Yep. Denying science, denying logic, pushing feelings. You need to feel right about it. That's truth. Don't put it to the test. Don't see if the word is true. Just feel that it is true, and it's true. A testimony is born in the giving of it. And thus, like Constantine did to Christians, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints makes Mormons stupid, despite a BYU poll saying that Mormons per capita are the more intelligent with the higher levels of degrees. Right, Todd? Right, John Lynn? Right, Jody Hildebrandt? The judgments of God, Danites, will be poured out on the wicked. So I used the Hinckley clip. If there are any among this people who should ever apostatize, prepare your backs for a good whipping. Hinckley. Lying about Thomas B. Marsh to threaten Mormons. To the extent that our elders from far and near will be called home in 2020, just as Travis prophesied, using this. And then Nelson said, no, this is not it. Get back out there and die. And then Bednar last year puts out a message, I'll come to Zion, and I do my video, Bednar calls Mormons to Zion. No, we retract. Stay. You gotta pay attention, guys. Once you know, which you all should know, I am a prophet, I am a seer, I am a revelator, I am a translator. You need to know this. It's blatantly obvious. It means you can trust me. You need to pay attention. You need to hearken. My videos are important to you. You need to study them. And it's now too late. There's over 4,000. And so, yes, this is what they're planning on doing right before the war of the world. The overthrow of the government. Come home. And so, yeah, the church isn't calling them back yet. The election's coming. I'm still hoping that something added to the baptism of fire will help Mormons be compelled to believe. Because otherwise, we're going right into the election. For the day that shall burn as an oven. Because that's what they did in 1838. Election fraud, civil war, murder, and burnings. And so if Father Amen doesn't step in, it's going to be sad. But this is what he's talking about. That it will. He doesn't believe in God. The Jewish God, by the way, not Jesus. Jesus is not real. Dear God, Kay. If you don't like and believe, why did you have to be mean? Seriously. The church taught you to be that. She says she left the church and therefore she's put away all her Mormon thinking. Now she's Christian. No, you're not. You're still Mormon. That's the baggage that the church brands you with from birth. All the expos branded from birth. I still see it when I catch their titles. I avoid listening to them, but, you know. I saw the one Crystal, whatever her name was, the most recent one I found. Talked about her in a video. What the church had done to her with making her stupid, not using science and logic. Now that she believes the church is false and left the church, she has no solid foundation of logic and science. And so the church's sandy foundation is now being transformed into her will. And so it's whatever she feels is right now is now the truth. And it's sad. Because it's going to get out of control in her life, and eventually she will fall and have a faith crisis for her own personal will. And then where does she go then? Oh, the church is still here? I guess I'll go back to church. And then Saints Unscripted will get her for a video. I left the church thinking I knew better, and I was wrong. I'm back. Church is true. That would have been what happened to Kay if she weren't so old. That's what she said. Because I'm 55-ish, almost. 54, not 55 yet. That used to be retirement age. I think it was 53 at one point in time in America. And sure enough, when I was 53, I'm retiring last year. And then conference, so I did the token conference video. And then, boom, October 7th. Crap. I have to come out of retirement. The western boundary of the state of Missouri, western boundary, where Independence and Adirondack are, will be swept clean of its inhabitants, that, as President Young tells us, when you return to that place. No, he stole that from 19 July 1840 and then changed the wording. There'll be not left so much as a yellow dog to wag his tail. 19 July 1840. See, Brigham Young knew of that document. He knew Joseph Smith condemned him and exposed him as the enemy, and that Brigham Young would order his assassination, and thus didn't publish it ever. Gospel will be taken from the Christians and carried to the Jews after the Christians are destroyed. But the Jews, that's Armageddon, they'll be destroyed. They're assuming that there will be Jews surviving. Before that day comes, however, 2-hour video, huh? God, all this to try to save your lives. Before that day comes, however, the saints will be put to a test that will try the integrity of the best of them. So this is a different test. This is still the same talk. And so an even more purge is coming. A greater purge has yet to come here, Mormons, than already you've experienced. We'll try the integrity. Bednar, remember that? Integrity. Am I inspired or what? Of the best of them. The pressure will become so great that the more righteous among the Mormons will cry unto the Lord day and night until deliverance comes. He just got through talking about 19 July 1840, and then says the saints will then be put to an even greater test that Mormon elitists will not be able to bear, as they'll be crying like sensitive snowflakes for Jesus to deliver them. What could that possibly be? The day that shall burn as an oven, and they that come shall burn the Mormons. The fall of the great and abominable church. The fleeing of the apostles. The abandonment upon the dissolution and winding up of this corporation. Gotta pay attention to my videos, guys. I know whereof I speak. The church will abandon you. And that's where Albert Pike comes in after the destruction of Christianity. You claim to be Christian, don't you? Nobody will know where to turn. You'll be crying unto Jesus, all of you. And he will never come. He will never deliver you. Then the prophet Joseph and others will make their appearance. And those who have remained faithful will be selected to return to Jackson County, Missouri. Still to this day my #1 video, but it's Southern Illinois, according to 19 July 1840. I would find that later. Yep. You can't return to Jackson County unless there's a destruction to leave. If nobody destroys this valley, there's no reason to leave. And this is the whole point. They're purposely building up as much money as they can, hoarding money, owning the land, land grab, purging the Mormons, causing controversies, causing contentions, getting people upset with them, purposely using kids now outside. Not the one guy that was wandering back there. It's fenced off. Nobody's supposed to be able to go back there. Did they not close the fence up? Anyway, so yeah, you need to know. Section 101, the parable starting in verse 43. Verse 51 is the enemy shall come. Joseph Smith's 19 July 1840 refers to the enemy of his parable in section 101, verse 51. And Royal Skousen didn't even know that that's where it came from. And so he didn't know the footnote, section 101, verse 51. And they just say one line blank. We know what it's supposed to be in there. He already had it, section 101, that's what he's referring to. So I've been helping you out with that all these years. And so yes, the destruction, the burning, 9/11, is it this time? Or will the church fail? Will it be the election as the ultimate backup? They failed in 2020. They're not going to fail this time. You're welcome, by the way. It was me that caused them to fail. And so I'm interested, because they don't believe in Joseph Smith. Why is he making his appearance in the latter days? They don't believe in Jesus. They're using that as code. Lucifer, seriously? He doesn't have the keys of government. He's not running the government. Biden is running America right now. Other nations have other humans leading the government. So it's not Lucifer. You can't take that seriously and literally. You can't just say, hey, Lucifer gave up the keys of your nation. We're now going to take over. They're going to think you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. No, this is code for their coup. And so it's not Joseph here. It's me. But they don't believe I'm going to show, because they don't believe in prophecy and revelation. And so this return to Jackson County means that the community of Christ is going to go bye-bye in this destruction too. The church, with this destroyed, Temple Square destroyed, the church ruined, will go to the government and say, hey, we have insurance to help, but we need extra money from the government. You owe us since you allowed the enemy to destroy our religion. The church is to blame. Or the government is to blame. And so, government has to cave. Give them the land back of Adam-on-Diamond. They claim the land. And so the community of Christ and the Temple Lot Church gonna have to go. And so now that 200 million doesn't seem so large after all, does it, sweetie? Oh, the first female president of Joseph Smith's religions. Yep, it's all a setup. I warned you when it first hit the news last year. Nobody listens. Utter destruction's coming. There it is. And then take part in the building of that beautiful city, the New Jerusalem, to restore everything I told you they're planning for it. So, yeah, the money is a backup, because if they destroy the United States, they're not going to have any value for the money they have. The economy will have collapsed. Money will be worthless. They can try to claim to use it for the new economy in Zion, law of consecration, Good luck with that. That's why I told Nelson, you gotta hurry. Don't have much time. Because if America falls, the economy falls, and your money is worthless. All those multi-trillions of dollars, worthless. Doesn't matter how much you get, it's all going to be worthless. It is not gold. It is not anything tangible. It's all digital in a computer system. And it'll be worthless, like Bitcoin. I can't believe it's been exposed as a scam, and yet it's still in operation as a scam. And we're finding out that criminal organizations are now using it to hide the money trail. Dear God. And so, searching through the last paragraph here, it's just the test is coming. You won't be able to tell the face of the saint from the face of the enemy of God, because we're all going to look the same. Difficulties will be of such character that the man and woman who does not possess the personal knowledge or witness will fall. And they don't believe in a knowledge or a witness. They purposely use Christianity to deceive. If you have not got testimony, live right and call upon the Lord and cease not till you obtain it. Oh my God. If you do not, you will not stand. So yeah, the whole thing he says previously, which is a different talk. First one was from 1868. And then the other one was Orson F. Whitney quoting it. So that's a completely separate thing. So yeah, we got the Heber C. Kimball one. Alright, now to finish off the 2-hour tour, John Taylor's Last Days Vision of 1877. So what's going on in 1877? Brigham Young dies. When did he die? August. So when was this? Was it before or after Brigham Young dies? We need to know this thing. And so we find out at the very end. Thank you, Joseph Smith Foundation. Source, Wilford Woodruff's Journal, June 15th, 1878. A vision, Salt Lake City, night of December 16th, 1877. Okay? After Brigham Young is dead. So, how is the succession supposed to occur? John Taylor. Because Brigham Young, the year before he died, again, preparing for his death. It couldn't have been an appendix bursting or whatever they were claiming. He knows he's about to die, and he's preparing for his death to make sure the church survives. And so, Orson Hyde, right? Not Orson Pratt, Orson Hyde, was involved with Thomas B. Marsh in signing the affidavit against the Danites. They got the Joseph Smith locked up in Liberty Jail, and Danites were free to go and found the city of Nauvoo. The ones responsible got away with it. And so when Joseph Smith got back, Thomas B. Marsh, he's gone. He didn't want nothing to do with this evil organization anymore. But Orson Hyde is put back into the 12 under Brigham Young. And now he becomes a loyalist to Brigham Young. He now is converted to this Danite coup for the murder, and then comes to the valley. And then in 1852, Brigham Young then says, Adam is our Heavenly Father. Not only is he a polygamist, bringing Eve, one of his wives, into the Garden of Eden, baby, don't you know that you drive me crazy, and ordering the saints to now publicly, openly practice polygamy in violation of the laws of the land, in defiance of the United States that took over his kingdom. Orson Hyde, that was the line that was too much for him to handle, and he would not cross it. And so he was openly and in person with Brigham Young opposed to Adam as our Heavenly Father. That was it. Everything else he's fine with. Polygamous marriages, great. Girls, girls, girls. With their bodies wiggling and then jiggling and whatever else is in the song. But Adam as Heavenly Father, no. That's too much for him to handle. A coup of the government, fine. But Adam as Heavenly Father, no. And so, Brigham Young is pissed with him for this. You know, they're back and forth bashing each other over this. And so, the year before he dies, realizing that Orson Hyde is next in line to succeed as the top-ranking president of the 12, he then changes the 12's system so that the ranking is readjusted. And he says, because you were unfaithful and were an apostate in 1838, you were excommunicated in absentia, but nonetheless excommunicated. Not by Joseph, by Brigham. And so when Joseph put you back in, which he didn't need to, Brigham had no authority to excommunicate. Thomas B. Marsh could have come back and taken over again as the president, but he wanted nothing to do with this evil empire secret combination. But regardless, Joseph Smith put him back in the 12. And so Brigham then claimed, well, when Joseph Smith put you back in, that's where your new ranking is. And so it's back behind John Taylor. And so now John Taylor then becomes the successor. And so when he dies, Wilford Woodruff is now claiming John Taylor has this vision. Why? Because section 107, verse 92, the head of the church is a prophet, seer, revelator, and translator. And so they aren't going to prophesy. They don't have authority. They're not getting inspired to prophesy. They're not going to reveal. That would expose their whole plot using the Bible as the coded coordinating attack. Because they've convinced Christians to deny science and logic, so they can't see the astronomical dating that's in there that they're using to coordinate all this with. That's why this is it. And so a translator? Oh, hell no. They don't want nothing to do with translation. The Bible has to be literal history. Let God prevail. And so, yes, Wilford Woodruff is trying to show his loyalty that John Taylor is the prophesied person to take over from Brigham Young, that we have to continue this system. And so Irene in the Solemn Assembly of Nelson says, ever since the death of Brigham Young, John Taylor has followed the process that we continue to this day. Not Brigham being the authorized successor of Joseph, John being the authorized successor of Brigham. You didn't catch that, did you? Despite me constantly over all these years putting it in as a clip. So that's what Wilford Woodruff is doing. He's showing his loyalty to John Taylor, trying to get other Mormons to back John Taylor as the successor. It wouldn't be for another 3 years until he finally becomes the president of the church in 1880. And then in 1887, boom, he's locked up and dies in prison. As he would have revelations, not inspiration, for polygamous scriptures that were added to his Doctrine and Covenants, but because of 1887, the whole organization is shut down. That Doctrine and Covenants was banned. Not allowed anymore. And so thus the FLDS church that formed in 1920s, they claim the Doctrine and Covenants under John Taylor with those polygamy enforced scriptures. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints claims ignorance. We don't know of any scriptures from John Taylor. No, not at all. Because that would mean that the FLDS church has authority and this church doesn't. Because they were not loyal to the living prophet of Jesus. So, this is the context behind this. So whether this was real or not, we'll have to just trust. The introduction, where Wilford Woodruff's journal again is inserted, and we all believe it was an actual talk by Joseph. Can't find it. It's not in the Joseph Smith papers. I haven't found it yet. Nobody knows of it. It can't be found. Nobody knows where it exists from. So maybe Wilford Woodruff is writing in his journal all this made up stuff. And so he's making up this stuff about John Taylor to show support for him, just like for Joseph. I told the brethren that the Book of Mormon is the most correct of any book on the face of the earth, and a man will draw nearer to God by abiding by its precepts than by any other book. Not Joseph Smith, can't find it. Only Wilford Woodruff from his journal, just like this. So understand the context. Wilford Woodruff is in on the plot. So even if it's not John Taylor, it's still a person who's in on the plot. Okay? I went to bed as usual around 7:30 p.m. I had been reading a revelation in the French language. You got to understand that it's winter, so it's dark, and so candlelight during those days, and it's cold outside, and so you have to use torches for lighting, because I don't think electricity had been invented until later. You know, maybe that with tennis shoes among the Nevites, but I'm just pulling anachronism since Christians did it to the Bible, turning it literal history. I had been reading a revelation in the French language. See, he's trying to show he's a translator of the wrong languages. My mind was calm, more so than usual if possible, so I composed myself for sleep, but could not. I felt a strange feeling come over me. Ooh, that's the Spirit of God, like a fire is burning. See how this is worded? Already I'm concerned. And became partially unconscious. I have vision. Still I was not asleep, nor exactly awake, with dreary feeling. The first thing that I recognized was that I was in the tabernacle of Ogden, Utah. You know where Ogden is? It's north, right? Orem is south, Ogden is north. I've had the biggest problems with that the whole time since I've been here. Even with the Radio from Hell show that always talks about how Ogden is crime central. highest per capita of emergencies involving broken beer bottles over people's heads. And the highest per capita of STDs among teenagers. There in Ogden. Dear God. And then we had the boy mayor who wanted a gondola. I was sitting in the back part of the building for fear they would call on me to preach. And it has been a pattern of the majority of Mormons ever since. Which, however, they did. For after singing the second time, they called me to the stand. And so, yeah, now we're mixing this with Lorenzo Snow's Windows from Heaven's Never Happened event. I arose to speak and said that I didn't know that I had anything especially to say. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. Well, except to bear my testimony of the latter-day work. When all at once it seemed as if I was lifted out of myself, and I said, yes, I have something to say. And that it is this. Some of my brethren have been asking, what is becoming of us? Are we going to go to prison? Is the church going to be dissolved? Are we going to hell? What is the wind blowing? I will answer you right here what is coming very shortly, in the coming days, 200 years from now, 100 years from now, 150 years from now. I was then in a dream, immediately in the city of Salt Lake, and wandering around in the streets and in all parts of the city. And on the doors of the houses I found badges, stinking badges. You need to also understand, I am a dream interpreter. If this is a real dream, it's not. It's not prophecy. Because in order for it to be prophecy, he needs to be the legitimate president of the church, and he's not. And so, like I said, he's in on it. If this is him, not Wilford Woodruff, who's saying that this was what he said. But lots of Danites were writing in their journal about what Joseph said or didn't say. Even women who were whores, involved in orgies with the Danites, and then blaming Joseph that he was the one they were sealed to, having sex with all these other guys. That's just creepy. Blaming Joseph so that Joseph would be forced to take care of them and the babies that they would have when they're being banged by all these other men. Who knows who is the father? Oh, dear God. I found badges of mourning, and I could not find a house, but was in mourning. Mourning as in sorrow, rather than mourning as the day dawn is bursting. I passed my own house and found the same sign there. Badges of mourning. Okay. So there's some kind of a badge posted on the houses. And so he saw a sign, a badge of mourning on his house. Are you a direct descendant of John Taylor, people? I passed my own house and found the same sign there, and I asked the question, is that me that is dead? Someone gave me the answer, no, you will get through it all. Not a prophet. Died in prison. He's talking about a future, latter days, his descendants. And so if he's saying no, they'll get through it all, he's saying that his descendants will get through it all. It seems strange to me that I saw no person in the streets in all my wandering around the country. The United States of America, barren of humans. I seemed to be in their houses with the sick, but saw no funeral procession. So is it the hospitals that are empty? Or, because he's saying he doesn't see, he doesn't see the people in the streets. I seem to be in their houses with the sick, so everybody's got a sickness. Nobody's on the streets. Everybody is staying home, staying safe from a sickness in the future. Side note, unrelated obviously, for 2020, everybody else was losing money on the stock market except for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which profited off of 2020. I'm not sure what happened in 2020 to cause this. And then sensitive snowflakes to think that Nelson betrayed us by turning progressive, pushing the jab. You see what they're doing here? 150 years ago. And they've already plotted this. China, if you're listening. Shanghai. I warn you, you don't believe. Nor anything of the kind, but the city looking still as though the people were praying, and it seemed that they had controlled the disease. But what the disease was, I did not learn. They failed, didn't they? You're welcome, by the way. It was not made known to me. I then looked over the country, north, east, south, and west, and the same mourning was in every land and in every place. The next thing I knew, I was just this side of Omaha. Is that only in Nebraska, or is there other Omahas? Omaha, Tennessee. Omaha, Kansas. Omaha, North Carolina. Omaha, North Dakota. Omaha, Washington. I don't know. I know Springville is in every state in the Union, isn't it? So we still are trying to figure out, where are the Simpsons? Where are they? It seemed though I was above the earth and looking down upon it. As I passed along upon my way east, I saw the road full of people, mostly women. The men gone, with just what they could carry in bundles on their backs, traveling to the mountains. In Omaha? On foot. I wondered how they could get through with such a small pack on their backs. It was remarkable to us, and there's a question as to us, that there were so few men among them. Didn't seem to me as though the cars were running. The rails looked rusty, the roads abandoned, and I have no conception of how I traveled as I looked down upon the people. So cars, wasn't that in the early 1900s? Whoops. Oh, past 2 hours. Crap. And it's 4 o'clock. Crap. This is tomorrow morning's video, then, won't it be? Crap. Oh. Huh. According to Ben's patent motor car, the first car rolling out was on January 29th, 1886. This is 77. There are no cars yet. So did he prophesy of it, or did somebody rig their journals after he died? This is what you got to pay attention to. So, we do get that answer when it was written in the journal. 78. Oh. So unless he backdated it, it's the only thing I can figure. That's 10 years later. 1887, he dies. 1888, the first Benz, right? Oh crap, took it off the screen too early. And I didn't even take a snapshot. I'm gonna wait for Google again. I notice Google is escalating their problems. (1886). Okay, so it was the year before John Taylor would die. But it would take at least a year for people to know and recognize it. And they're saying, well, yeah, January. They would have had to have made it in 1885 and then rolled it out in 1886. Only the rich could afford it. And so, yeah, it's more plausible. See, these are the kinds of things you got to keep track of. There were no cars in 1877. So is he prophesying about cars? Or is Wilford Woodruff predating his journal entry to prove that John Taylor is a living prophet of Jesus, even though he died in prison? Or, yeah, he would have died in prison. Cars would have now been known. And so it would have been carriages rather than cars. But it clearly says cars here by Wilford Woodruff. See, but then he goes, yeah, no carriages, buggies, or cars. There were no cars yet. Boom, gotcha. You pulled an anachronism. I expose that this date is incorrect. It's not by John Taylor. See how it was done? No cars were invented yet. Alright, so where did we leave off? Okay. Backs. Although cars were running, it didn't seem to me as though cars were running. The rails looked rusty. The railroad was around. That was in the mid-1880s, wasn't it? Or was it after the Civil War? See, again, this is something else you need to check. The railroad came to Utah in 1869, so that's well within the time frame. Okay. So yes, rails are okay, cars are not. Okay? Looked rusty and the roads abandoned. And I have no conception of how I traveled as I looked down upon the people. I couldn't see you, you're on vision, you dumbass. I continued east by way of Omaha and Council Bluffs, Ohio. Why would he say Council Bluffs? Because that was part of the exodus to Utah Valley, Salt Lake Valley, Council Bluffs. So the exodus from America to Utah, he's now saying he's going east, he's going back, just like going back to Zion, back to Jackson County, Missouri, not Southern Illinois. Pay attention. Which were full of disease. There were women everywhere. Men are scarce. Now, do you understand why they're going to cause this? It's also to help reinforce the need to return to polygamy. With a scarcity of men, all these women, sorry women, you have no choice. I'm the last man on earth. What do you mean you're not going to have sex with me even though I'm the last man on earth? What the hell? Come on! The human race dies with you? What the? Come on! The state of Illinois and Missouri, the two main places in the final days of the church, were in tumult, men killing one another, women joining the fighting, family against family in the most horrid manner. This is this year, the bloodbath for the election. Family members divided. No, Daddy, you rapist. I'm not keeping the baby. You're a murderer. You're having that baby. No. State line, Lincoln Project. Scarily hilarious. Project 2025. I imagine next that I was in Washington and D.C. because I see White House and Congress here. And I found desolation there. There it is, baby. Boom! The abomination of desolation, D.C. The Washington, D.C. Temple. Jesus' second coming. The day that shall burn as an oven. Boom! There it is. The plot of the Danites. To destroy America. To destroy the federal government. To murder. To get their kingdom back. There it is. Oops, I did it again. I played with your heart. But we're doing I Feel Safe in New York City, right? From the other day, right? Wrote that down. I feel safe in New York City. Because he's going to get to New York. It's sad what they're planning to do to New York. What happened in 9/11? New York. That was the big tragedy. There was the Pentagon, there was Philadelphia, where the passengers took over the plane from the terrorists, but it was too late. The plane crashed. And then there was the one out in LA or Arizona or some other places out in the West that supposedly the terrorists never boarded the planes, as we heard that eventually from that when they were investigating. But nonetheless, I imagined next that I was in Washington and I found desolation there. The White House was empty. The inverted pentagram pointing to the White House in the pavement of the streets. And the halls of Congress the same. Everything in ruins. The coup. The people seemed to have left the city and left it to take care of itself. I was in Baltimore, Maryland, in the square where the monument of 1812 stands. William Morgan, War of 1812, learns about this plot. Ends up with Joseph Smith Sr. in Canandaigua, New York, and then 9/11/1826 happened. And the coming forth of the Book of Mormon and the Church of Joseph Smith. Front of Charles Hotel. See, now that the more I study and learn, I then can go back on the older stuff and I understand it better. See it in the context. See how I'm inspired? I saw dead piled up so as to fill the street square. I saw mothers cutting their throats of their own children for blood. Remember QAnon? The deep space Dems sacrificing babies to Lucifer and drinking their blood. I wonder where he got that from. To quench their thirst, then lie down and die. The water of the Chesapeake Bay was stagnant, and the stench arising from it on account of the throwing their bodies into it so terrible. And the very smell carried death with it. Saw no man except they were dead or dying in the streets, and very few women. So the East Coast, few humans. Other places, lots and lots and lots of women. Those I saw were crazy and in an ugly condition. Everywhere I went, I beheld the same sights all over the city. It seemed terrible beyond description to look upon. I thought this must be the end, but no, in the coming days, Jesus! Where's Jesus in all this? I was seemingly in an instant in the city of Philadelphia, sisterly love. You don't know Greek? Thomas Robinson, who taught us Greek, would not explain this. He just, yeah, move on. Along with Catholic. Yeah, let's move on. Doesn't it mean the downward motion of the whole? We're moving on. There everything was still. No living soul was there to greet me. It seemed the whole city was without inhabitants. The south of Chestnut Street, and in fact everywhere I went, the putrefaction of the dead caused such a stench that it was impossible for any living thing to breathe. Nor did I see any living thing in the city. Next I found myself in Broadway. Hollywood back in those days. Theaters. Remember King Kong? The revision with Jack Black? She was awesome. I fell in love with her in that movie. So sad how the poverty just struck the people in that city. In the city of New York, and there it seemed the people had done the best they could to overcome the disease. But in wandering down Broadway, I saw the bodies of beautiful women, actresses, models, lying, some dead and others in a dying condition on the sidewalks. I saw men come out of cellars and rape the women of some that were yet alive, and then kill the women, and then rob their bodies of all their valuables they had upon them. Rape, kill, then steal from them. And before they could get back to the cellar, they would roll over a time or two and die in agony. In some of the back streets, I saw them kill some of their own offspring and eat their raw flesh. Anybody remember the Book of Mormon about this? The Book of Mormon is prophecy. It is not literal history. Here's the confirmation that the Danites are behind this. The Danites will cause this. The bloodbath. And then they would die themselves. Everywhere I went, I saw the same scene of horror and destruction and death and rapine. No carriages, buggies, or cars were running, but death and destruction were everywhere. Let me take care of this as Two hours, 20 minutes, huh? Then I saw fire start, and just at that moment, a mighty east wind sprang up and carried the flames over the city, and it burned until there was not a single building left standing there, even down to the water's edge. Wharves and shipping all seemed to burn and follow in common destruction where the great city was a short time ago. The burning of New York. Just like 9/11, huh? The stench from the bodies that were burning was so great that it was carried a long distance across the Hudson Bay. And carried death and destruction wherever it penetrated. I cannot paint in words the horror that seemed to compass me about. It was beyond description of man. I suppose this was the end, but it was not. In the coming days, Jesus, mighty magical powers to save everybody from utter destruction. Just like Jesus of the Jews. See this? Jesus fails. Again. I was given to understand the same horror was being enacted all over the country. East, west, north, south. Very few left alive. Still there were some. The extermination of man. Immediately after, I seemed to be standing on the left bank of the Missouri River, opposite the city of Independence. But there was no city in Independence. Did you catch this? I saw the whole state of Missouri and Illinois and all of Iowa a complete desert with no living thing there. Short distance from the river, however, I saw 12 men dressed in temple robes doing the covenant path of penalty, standing in a square, or nearly so, and I understood it represented the 12 gates of the New Jerusalem. Their hands were uplifted. Let's see. In consecration of the ground and laying the cornerstone of the temple. After the destruction, then the Zion begins to be built. And that's what I'm concerned with, you. The survivors build Zion. They're expecting Mormons of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's why Nelson released the handbook, so that the Mormons might have that handbook available to them and keep the church going to worship Lucifer. That's what Albert Pike says. After the destruction, the doctrines of Lucifer brought out in the open. I saw myriads of angels hovering over them. I also saw an immense pillar of clouds over them and heard the angels singing the most heavenly music. Oh, church is so true. The words were, now is established the kingdom of God and his Christ, which shall never more be thrown down. We get to go to Revelation. Only Revelation chapter 12. And then Joseph Smith covers it 6 times. One in section 20 only says the kingdom of our God. Section 76, verse 28, kingdom of our God and his Christ. That's like I did that video months ago explaining that this is the 3 resurrections, and then had to explain that there's Joseph who erected the church, Brigham Young who insurrected the church, and then I'm trying to resurrect the church, second erection, and that there are 3 resurrections. First with the elite Mormons, chosen people, they rejected it. Then ex-foes, they rejected it. We're now on the 3rd resurrection. And so my playlist to the world is for this 3rd resurrection. That anybody out there that finds my videos and they believe, yeah, you're welcome in. Now going to the streets once the Utah gets destroyed here. We have to go back east. Section 105, kingdom of our God and his Christ. And that's it. Just 76 and 105. Okay? So now in Revelation 12, kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. Joseph Smith makes a change. In verse 7, he adds, and the dragon prevailed not against Michael, neither the child nor the woman, which was the church of God, who had been delivered of her pains. Remember, 23rd of September 2017. And brought forth the kingdom of our God and his Christ. Okay, so when is that? Because the birth is first, then when is the kingdom of God and his Christ? Well, Revelation 19. Comes from the clouds of glory to destroy the wicked, abomination of desolation, save the Jews finally, after they're destroyed almost. 8 April 2024, the marriage supper feast of the Lamb at the Zion Temple. That's what he's referring to. All right. It's referring to the book of Revelation and Joseph Smith's comments on it, which shall never more be thrown down. And if this actually is after 1887, which, yes, it would have to be, the church is dissolved. And so again, you see another reasoning why Wilford Woodruff, who's now the president of the church, has to retroactively put in stuff in his journal to claim John Taylor, who died in prison and now knows about cars, oops, is talking about this because the church got dissolved. Never more be thrown down. What do you mean? Joseph Smith established the church. It's not thrown down. Yes, 1887, it was thrown down. Boom, another anachronism here, exposing the date. That is a lie. This is how you do research, guys. How do you thank me? K? Dear God. Jesus! Jesus is the Lord! Here I am prophesying for you, revealing to you the day and hours. And how do you treat me? Jesus is Lord! I saw people coming from the river and from the desert places a long way off to help build the temple. Survivors. It's the only place left on earth. And it seemed that hosts of angels all helped to get material to build with. Really? Because all the material of the earth is gone? So it's spiritual material. It's a spiritual temple. Can't you see it? You must be wicked. I saw some of them who wore temple clothes come. Thus wearing the underwear. And build the temple and the city. And all the time, can you imagine wearing your temple clothes to build the temple? And all the time. Which means Mormons survived because they were doing their temple work when it hit. But somehow it took out the locker room, and so their clothes were destroyed. Build the temple and the city. And all the time I saw a great pillar of clouds hovering over the place. See what he's doing there? The pillar of cloud that Jesus comes down and burns the rest of the world with is the protection of the saints. God. Supernatural stuff. This is all coding. Instantly, however, I found myself again in the tabernacle at Ogden. And yet I could see the building go on, and I got quite animated in calling on the people in the tabernacle to listen to the beautiful music, for the angels were singing the same music I had heard before. Now is established the kingdom of God in his Christ, which shall never more be thrown down. (1887) Busted. At this I seemed to stagger back from the pulpit, and Brother Francis D. Richards and some others caught my arm and prevented me from falling. Then I finished so abruptly, still even then I had not fainted, though simply exhausted. Then I rolled over in bed and woke up, just as the city clock was striking 12. Oops. We could have a third one here. Let me check. When did city clocks begin? History of timekeeping devices. City clocks with chimes begin. 12th century. Wow. Okay. One of the earliest gear-based chiming clocks was found in Syria, and by the 12th century AD, these clocks had spread all over Europe. Okay, so that's cool. Alrighty, so no, just two anachronisms that expose the real date of when this could not have been written before. Now, so Wilford Woodruff, when did he take over? (1898) was when he died. Okay, so he became the president of the church in 1989, 2 years after Taylor died. And so 89 would be when he started, so thus would be plenty of time for the car to be invented and be running around. So he didn't stop to think. Maybe the cars didn't exist until 1886. Maybe I should be careful about dating this. Yeah. Because that's how he should have done it. Should have done it on the day that he decides to do it and say, I remember when. And he writes it all out. That would have been more believable than having some smart aleck like me actually fact check him on when things were invented. Okay, see how that works? Ah, man. So yeah, are you not scared yet? Seriously, did I lose my audience? What more can I do? I'm already being shut down by YouTube. I've got the church trying to assassinate me and cyber terrorize me to shut me down. And God, I've come out of the closet now because you now have to be compelled to believe, and demonstrating blatantly obvious how I'm a prophet, seer, revelator, and translator, and the so-called ones aren't. And you still won't have this faith crisis like Heber C. Kimball said you're going to have? No, the church has to be true. I'm just being tested. I can't give in to Travis. No. A Travis is coming. Heber C. Kimball. Perfect.